So recently, South Africa's credit rating was downgraded by two ratings agencies. One expert believes that state construction projects, especially existing contracts, will probably be first to suffer. Let's discuss this now with MDA Attorneys Director Chris Bennett. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's look at the overall impact of these downgrades on the construction industry.
Yes, we anticipate that the impact's going to be fairly broadly felt. The major impacts will most likely start out in the public sector as money gets more expensive and tighter, and then it will trickle down. The private sector won't be unaffected, but generally speaking, the private sector is perhaps a little bit better at managing their money than the state. They will be prepared, but the increase in interest rates that is likely to happen will affect projects. It will affect both the affordability of projects currently underway and the potential for new projects as employers see their returns diminish.
It can't just be, though, surely about the downgrades from ratings agencies. It sounds like there were already existing problems within the industry. Walk us through those.
We've had, for a number of years, we've had some problems with cash flow in the industry. At MDA Attorneys, we specialised in the construction sector. This is all we do. And we've seen a significant rise of late in the last 3 years, where money has got a little shorter and non-payment has become quite an issue. There were, on the biggest picture scale, 2 years ago, the government did bring out draft regulations. These regulations would affect the payment terms of contracts as well as the dispute resolution mechanism. These regulations have a long history in the construction industry internationally. They were first trialled by the British in the late 90s with great success. They've amended theirs slightly as they've learned lessons, but they've been picked up by Australia and Singapore and Malaysia, and South Africa was poised to do the same. They aid tremendously in managing and assisting cash flow with the prompt payment regulations, and of course using adjudication as a statutory form, not just as a contractual form, where it exists large in the contracts. But it would have a statutory backing and a statutory scheme, and it would be very quick. So if you're a contractor or a subcontractor, you haven't been paid, the person has to pay you, the other side has to pay in 30 days, you would then should be able to finish that dispute in the next 28 days.
I mean, if cash flow is a problem now, we know that South Africa has many infrastructure challenges which were supposed to be addressed by the NDP. How likely are we to succeed then if we can't get it right now?
That's going to be a really tough one to answer. Already we're seeing some infrastructure projects being put on hold. Tenders that have been let are being postponed. There's uncertainty as to affordability of these projects, and some of them are in very critical parts of the infrastructure. It is a worry, and the construction industry does have a very good contribution to GDP, and most importantly, it's a big employment sink. It employs huge numbers of people, and when you look at the construction industry as a whole, everybody always thinks of the big players and the guys whose names are up in lights. But there's a massive sector below that of small to medium enterprises and specialised tradesmen. Those are the guys who normally make up the vast bulk of the employment sector.
And those are the guys who ultimately suffer the most. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I must press this in. You've just highlighted how important the construction industry is. We know the problems. How do we then fix it? Are there any interventions between the construction industry and government?
In the short term, the long term would be having to get our youngsters and getting money back in the sector. The short term, though, we desperately need these regulations, desperately. They're long overdue. Who knows what the hold-up is in the ministry? We don't know, but we desperately need these regulations. They've been proven to be effective internationally, and they'll be of great benefit to us. They'll generally really help the cash flow system.
Great chatting to you. Thank you so much. Chris Bennett is the Director of MDA Attorneys.